Yo, what is going on everybody, and welcome to another video. Today I have you with what is possibly the best controller settings on Battlefield 6 that I have found. So I'm going to run you through each category, and basically some of them are you need to follow this, and some of them you can adjust to your liking through playing the game and then adjusting them. You know, that's things like sensitivity and aiming and things like that. So we'll run through it all, and yeah, let's get straight into this. So we are going to start off on the accessibility tab, as this is the first one you come to. Now all of this stuff right here I haven't changed, I haven't touched. So if you go down to graphics, obviously there's going to be more of this in the actual graphics settings. However, for some reason they've added color profiles here. Anyway, I've changed this. I've changed my enemy color to pink instead of red, and this is purely just so that I can see them a bit better. I don't know if it's just my eyes or whatever, but I seem to see pink better than red. It seems just brighter on the map. So yeah, that's the reason for doing that. I've also made these a little bit brighter by dragging this hue color all the way across to a brighter color. So yeah, you can do that if you want to. As I say, that's personal preference. Brightness, I had this on 60, however I've lowered it to 55.5 as looking outside from in a building was just super bright. I think it's something to do with the shading and the lighting that they've got in the game right now, so hoping they can fix that for the release of the game. But 55, somewhere in that region, tend to be the perfect sort of balance to sort of both of them light and dark areas. Now camera effects, this is a really important one. World motion blur off, weapon motion blur off. Put this all the way down to 20. For some reason you can't put it to 0. You want this off, and you want infantry crosshair projection off. So essentially all of this here is just atmospheric stuff to make the game feel more sort of movie-like and atmospheric as you're running around the map. But it hinders your visibility massively. You will struggle to see enemies, and your screen will be shaking all over the place, especially if you don't have this HUD motion off. Your HUD and mini-map will be shaking when you get a blown up near you or building collapses or something. And then your crosshair will also be shaking all over the place, so you'll struggle to hit them targets. So yeah, just make sure all that is off. And then moving on to controls now, I will go over that. Some of this is going to cross over, by the way, through the tabs. I don't know why, it's just the way that they've done it. So yeah, just bear that in mind if I do repeat myself. Controller vibration, I have that off. I don't like it. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm in the hate category. It just feels weird in my hands, and yeah, I just don't like it. So turn that off. That's off, and then all of this I haven't even touched. So hints you can turn off or on as you please. So now moving on over to gameplay. Now, as I say, a lot of this is going to be crossing over for the controls as well. So we're going to briefly go through this. We're not going to really click on much. So as I say, you can just sort of pause the video if you need to know where things are. Because some of this I'm going to talk about in the controller settings. So you got things here that, like, you know, crouch, sprint, I've not really touched. All of this I've not really touched. Land rolling, you want that on. Just so that if you come from a sort of high enough fall that's not enough to kill you, you'll roll forward, and it won't even thing you. I have this on instant, it won't even damage you, sorry. I have this on instant, and then I have interact prioritized, just because I'm getting used to it for the battle royale, because you want to pick up weapons and things and loot chests and whatever, like Warzone, super fast. So yeah, this invert thingy I've off. I don't think it's on by default anyway. And then yeah, as I say, it goes into vehicles, which I'll cover it in a minute. So as I say, not much really there. This is where it gets weird. So then heading on over to controller. Now obviously this is the important one. So basically you have soldier, vehicle, aircraft, gunner, transports, and helicopter presets, all that you can change. Now what we're going to focus on right now is the infantries. That's probably the most important one. So you can actually edit presets in here. You can sort of change all of these controls. There's different presets, you know, south pass, lefty, just the typical ones that swap your trigger buttons and swap buttons. However, the only thing that it doesn't do actually is swap the trigger buttons properly. So as you can see here, I have L1 for zoom, which is normally L2, and R1 for fire, which is normally R2. What I've done is I've swapped my ping from, I believe it was on L1 to R2, because for some reason when you're aimed in you couldn't ping people. So now I've made it so that I can aim in and I can ping people. Especially this is helpful when you're sniping and you need to ping people quickly for your teammates. And then basically I've swapped what was on L1, which was my grenade, to L2, and also for calling in gadgets. So basically all I've done is just swap these around for everything, and the rest I have kept the same. You can change crouch to your R3 button if you don't have any paddles like I've got on the back of mine. So if you don't have a scuff controller, or likewise this is an in control controller, then you can swap that, and it massively helps. To do that, all you need to do is go and edit keybinds, and as you can see, you can change whatever keybinds that you want. This right here, this flick look is something that some people have been using. However, I personally don't feel the need to use it. Basically, if you have this on, this flick look back, you're aiming in at someone in front, you can literally press a button and you will pop back like that, just instantly flick back towards them, almost like a hacker, like flicking in between people. So obviously you're not hacking, but I'm just saying that, you know, you're flicking in between people. So if you want to use that, I'd put it on like one of your directional buttons, one that you're not using, maybe up or something like that, that you can hit quite easily. But yeah, as I say, you can change everything in here. Anyway, moving on, if you come back out of that, you can actually go into edit settings. So this is where it gets very complicated. So you've got infantry, ground vehicles again. However, if you go into controller settings here, this is where you want to be right now. These are some of the most important settings for your controller. So infantry aim sensitivity. Now, you can go all the way to 70. However, I've found for me it's too fast. If you want more of a COD feel, you want to be in the range of 60 to 70. If you want a more battlefield feel, a bit slower, you want a bit more sort of smoother aim, so to speak, then I won't go any lower than 40 because it does start to get very slow. So 65 has been the perfect range for me, so give it a go. It's a good starting point, but that is personal preference and trial and error. This I've not touched, so I have that off. My field of view that I use is 110. Now, I used to run 120. However, what I was finding is that I was completely missing shots because the targets, obviously, the further view of field you have, the smaller the targets become, meaning that you're less likely to hit the shots, especially on a controller where you need a bit of aim assist to actually hit some shots. So I take 10 off. I've gone with 110. Anywhere in between the range of sort of 105 to 115, I'd say is max. I probably won't go any higher than that. If you feel comfortable doing so, then obviously, and you got used to it, then fair play. But yeah, for sort of aiming and seeing visibility of people and things, I'd go for 110. Now, this here is actually on by default. So basically what this is when you're aiming with different scopes, so say a sniper scope or a red dot, your aim is a different speed depending on the scope you're using. A bit like Call of Duty where you could change individual scopes. So what this does is it does it for you. So if you want a 16:9 monitor like most people will be using, you want it on 177.8. Don't ask me why. It's what some people have come up with, and it works. It does work. I think it was like Tactical Brit and people like that that have figured this out, crunched the numbers, and it works massively. And yeah, I actually have this off. Now, if you have this off, I will go in the settings in a minute, so make sure you stay tuned because you can change all of them separately. So for like 1x to like 10x or something, and I just feel like it feels a bit better. It feels a bit more COD-like that you might be used to. It just feels smoother for a Battlefield game to do that. But as I say, if you got used to it on, then probably just stick to it on. So infantry aim assist I have on 100, and also aim assist slowdown I have on 100. It's basically when you're coming across a target, it will slow down and then speed up again, slow down and speed up again. It's just so that you can get a bit of a smoother aim. Keep them both on 100. However, this zoom snap is basically your whole aim assist, this. And basically what it does is if you've got targets that you're aiming near, your red dot will automatically snap to them. And it causes a lot of problems when you're in conflict with 3 or 4 people. Say you're shooting at a guy close to you, but someone runs behind him, say that way, your aim will snap onto them, and that's what I've found with 100. I wouldn't take this any lower than 30. I've seen people go as low as 30. However, I wouldn't take it as low as that. I have tried it. It didn't feel very good. It felt a bit too... It felt like I wasn't getting any aim assist, so I bumped up to 32, and I know it doesn't sound a lot. However, I found this to be the perfect thing. I did try 40, that also worked, but I was still finding that I was snapping onto people that I really didn't want to aim at. So give it a go between 30 and 40 and just see how you feel. Some people might even want this on 100 and want that snappier aim. However, I prefer a smooth aim, something I'm more in control of, just because I've got so used to using a controller. So yeah. And then moving on to input curves. Now, there's not much difference between all of these. I have seen some charts floating around. However, for some reason, I've just always used the Battlefield 1, Battlefield 4 presets. It's just what I got used to. So yeah, that's what I'm running. It feels smooth. It feels good. So give it a go. See what you think. If not, flick it back on standard. Aim input curve, I just leave this one on standard. This acceleration is basically the amount of speed that you will gain as soon as you move your sort of analog stick. And there's not much difference again in them. However, the Battlefield 1 preset seems to be the smoothest. That's just what I've found. What some other people have found as well. Like the likes of Tactical Brit have found that this is smoother. So yeah, it's definitely worth trying to play with the Battlefield 1 and then maybe flick it back to standard if you're not used to it and just see how you feel. And again, for the acceleration, you've got this aiming left, right acceleration. Basically, if you imagine a straight line and you're just aiming left, right, this is the amount of time that it takes to speed up. So how fast you're going to go from aiming here to aiming here. If you have this on 100, it is very, very quick and is way too fast for a controller. 58 seems to be the perfect amount for me. I won't go above 60 or 65, and I won't go any lower than sort of 40. Again, this is something to play around with your sensitivity as well, because this is sort of to do with your sensitivity. So if you have your sensitivity high, you might want to lower this. If you have your sensitivity low, you might want to higher this. So yeah, just give it a little go and see how you feel. Infantry sprint I have on click. This is I have off. Sprint is obviously just my L3 button. I've just got used to using it. Some people change it. This is all standard. Slide I've not put on anything because I've got back pedals. I just double press circle and I slide. Crouch slide, obviously just the same. That's the same. And then this is where zoom. This is where I was talking about where I had that setting off. So yeah. So the only ones here, obviously zoom I've got on L1. The only ones here that are really important is this. For every single thing, you need to check that it's on 56.3, and that is because it's something to do with numbers in terms of the monitor you're using. So if you're on a 16.9, a 16 by 9, which most people will be, then use 56.3. As I say, the likes of Tactical Brit and stuff have crunched the numbers, and this is what they've came to. By default, I believe it's like 48 or something, and it's completely wrong. It feels awful. As soon as you change this, you will notice a difference without even changing anything else. And then infantry aim. So this is just like if I'm using iron sights, it's 80. The closer I am to targets, the faster I want to be able to move because the more they're going to move. And then this is where obviously all of the settings come in for me having that other setting off. So transition sensitivity smoothing, you want this off even if you're using the other one, because basically what it is you go in slow into aiming and out of aiming. You can't be snappy. You can't sort of flick onto people. Yeah, just turn it off. It's horrible. It feels horrible. It feels like there's a massive delay. Just turn it off. So anything from 1 to sort of 2 times, I've set to 75. Just so that I have a bit more control at them distances. All of these are about control, but I just have a bit more control at them distances and can track targets and actually hit them shots. Anything from 3 to sort of 4, I have at 80. And then 5, I have at 100. And then 6 to 10, it's really important you put these to 110 or even maybe 115 if you feel necessary. And that is just so you can track targets with a sniper rifle. If you keep these at 100 with the other setting off, you will feel slow as a tortoise. So just don't do it. Just put it at 110 to start with, and if you need to change it, then obviously do so. Prioritize interact, as I said earlier, I've got that. Skip to revive, and yeah, that is your infantry control settings. As I say, you want to go into all of these and make sure everything is the same. So you got 65, you know, you start your inputs there, left and right acceleration. That's actually a bit higher, but I'll probably bring that down to 65 as well. And then you obviously want to make sure all of this is the same. That's obviously a bit higher. I'll bring that down. But yeah, the main one obviously to check is that these are the vertical aim ratio is 56. For the vehicles, you can get away with sort of a higher aim ratio for the zoom. So this is Future Simon. I forgot to add this bit into the video. So if you come back out of your infantry settings like you should have, and you've checked all of these, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you will find this thing that says Other, hidden right at the bottom. I don't know why it's hidden here, but it is. Go into controller tuning right at the very bottom and you will see some very important settings. Obviously, you've got controller vibration. Again, this we've already gone through. However, here you can find your dead zones for your controller. Left stick dead zone, you want at 2. Same as for this dead zone. For the center as well, you want it at 2. Basically, you want to get this as low as possible without having any stick drift. If you've got stick drift, higher it up slightly until you don't have stick drift and then just leave it there. Axial dead zone, I have it on 8. You can get away with 10 or 6. It's completely your choice, whatever feels right for you. This is this is another important one to have as low as possible. I wouldn't go much lower than 8 or 6 though. Max input threshold, I have on 80 for my left stick because this just makes it feel more responsive. You don't have to push the stick as far when you are running. So it makes it feel that much more responsive. You can lower that even more if you want to sort of 60, but you do start to feel a little bit too responsive almost, as if you can, if that is possible. So yeah, 80 I've just found is the right balance. This one keep on 100 because you want to be able to flick onto people as fast as possible. So that gives you maximum range in that right analog stick. And then for these LT dead zones, I have on 0. I have this one on 100. Dead zone on 100, on 0, sorry, and then max input on 100 as well. This is just so that as soon as I press that button, I'm going to be firing or throwing the grenade or whatever it is. And then this stuff I haven't touched. Flick lock, again, I haven't touched any of this. You can mess around with this if you want. I'm sure there's some other settings videos on YouTube. But yeah, just wanted to add that bit. The most important bit is obviously these dead zone settings. As I say, if you have stick drift, change this a little bit higher at a time. Just don't try and... I'd say if you go past 10, you're done for. You need a new controller, unfortunately. Yeah, it'll just make the game feel horrible. So yeah, get them as low as possible. 2 is probably the bottom max. And yeah, about 10 I'd say is what you want to go up to. So now moving on over to graphics. I've not really changed a lot. I've sort of toned things down just because my PC streaming and things can get a bit choppy at times. So I've toned it down to medium. And then within here, I've just put everything medium. I've just set it to medium, and I haven't changed really any of this. Some things are high, some things are low. But yeah, that's what I've got. If you want to change yours to it, just pause the video. Brightness, as I say, 55.5. For some reason, I put this on 50.2. I don't know why. You don't need to. And then if you go into advanced, so you want fixed resolution scale on 100. I ain't got any of this on. I always use plus boost. You can try sort of enabled. However, I always just use plus boost. Anti-aliasing is TAA. I've got this off, and off. And then, as I say, field of view is 110. Vehicle field of view is 83. I wish they'd increase this to about 100 because 83 still seems super, super low. Now, weapon field of view, I have this on wide so that I can just see more. So even if you are on a sort of 110 or 100 sort of FOV, you're still going to see a lot because your weapon is almost seems a lot smaller. As I say, all of these are the same world motion blur that we went through earlier. Vignette are on, got that on. I use full screen borderless, but make sure you are on full screen. I only use this for streaming and things. Make sure that's on the monitor and the resolution you want, and also on the refresh rate. Unfortunately, my refresh rate is quite low now. Gonna have to look at getting a new monitor at some point. Now, vertical sync, turn this off. I think this is on by default. Turn it off. It will hinder your game like crazy and just use up so much CPU. and sort of GPU memory. It's just absolutely insane. So turn that off. Show HUD on, soldier HUD motion off, vehicle mode motion off. The rest of this I haven't really touched. And if you go in advanced HUD settings, horizontal HUD padding, you can put that on 0. I'm not really sure what it does, to be honest, but yeah, I just had it set for 6 for some reason. You want it on 0. And then kill feed icons I've got on, minimap size I've got on 100, 75, 15, 40. View rotation, make sure you switch that on so that you rotate in the map as you run around. You can see a lot better and it'll make a much more sense to you. 60, 100, 150. Dynamic map I've got off. Big map opacity is 85. That's off. And then they're all just my HUD colours and things like that. So then icon and indicators, you got 60, and then HUD icons. This is just what I've got. I don't think I've changed anything in here from what I can remember. So if you want to, just pause the video and just make sure that they are all the same. I hate the fact it goes all the way to the top every time. And then you got crosshairs. Now this is another important one, the crosshairs. Crosshair opacity obviously got on 100. Crosshair intensity, I don't actually know what that does, so I've just kept it on 60. However, I have changed the colour to blue. For some reason I can just see blue a lot better than white. You can change this to whatever colour you want. As I say, you've got a whole colour scheme here you can change to, and change the different RGB colour. So yeah, just change the colour as to whatever you can see better. Crosshair thickness, actually I'm going to put that on thick because I've been finding that I can't see it sometimes, so I'm going to actually flick that onto thick right now while I remember. Infantry crosshair protection off. As I say, this is all stuff that you can change as well. So I've got 100, 60. Headshot colour I have put to yellow, and kill colour to red. Yeah. Armour soft hit to blue, and that to pink, and hard hit to pink. This is just so I can differentiate in the game whether I'm hitting heads or body from distance, and a hit colour is just, a normal hit colour is just white. Broken armor hit indicator on. Damage number capacity I've put on 70 just so that it's not too obvious, and I've put it to small. And you got 10, 10, and then I've just kept these exactly the same. So then moving on down to audio, I've not changed anything here. I've kept default mix, auto for sound system, to make sure they're on whatever you've got for your headset or whatever. Music volume I have turned all the way down. This is just because I stream and record videos. I just don't want the music in the videos. And then I've got master volume at 100 so I can hear footsteps and things a lot louder. Sound effects at 100. I've got this toned down a little bit just so it's not screaming in my ear that things are there. That I've kept on 100. Hit indicator on. I'm not sure why. Oh, that's the sound for the indicator. That's why you need that on, because the headset sounds sick in this game. Enable voice chat. I've not really changed any of this, to be honest. I've got push to talk just on caps lock. My output is obviously my headset. I've not changed any of this. You can change some of this if you want, but I've just not touched it. I just don't feel the need to at the moment. And yeah, so then system, there's not a lot here I've changed, I don't think. You can pause it. Minimap size, I think we've already gone through that. So yeah, I think that's everything. So I do believe that is everything right there that you need to make the game feel a lot better for controller. If I've missed anything, I'll leave a pinned comment. If I have missed anything that I haven't put a pinned comment for and you haven't seen in the video, do please leave a comment down below asking for it, because I will be sure to go over it, or to sort of add a comment for you underneath. If there is anything else you would like to see from Battlefield 6 from me, then yeah, just add a comment underneath. But without further ado, I hope these settings help you. I hope you have an absolute blast on what is left of the open beta, and I really hope to catch you in one of my next videos. See ya!